Be seated, everyone. Okay, do we have a witness for the state?
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls Travis Hemesath.
Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Go ahead and have a seat. State your name and spell it, please.
Travis Hemesath, Travis Hemesath.
Can you please tell us who you're employed by
The Delaware County Sheriff's Office.
and in what capacity?
As a deputy sheriff,
How long have you been a deputy sheriff with Delaware County?
about 9 years, and in law enforcement for roughly 12 and a half years.
And what are your current duties and titles at the Delaware County Sheriff's Office?
Assigned to investigations,
And what does that mean?
investigating major crimes such as homicides, burglaries, thefts.
And when you're not in an investigator capacity, are you also sometimes a patrol deputy?
Yes.
And what does that entail?
Patrol of the county, general patrol, and taking calls for service.
I'd like to direct your attention to November 10th, 2018. Were you a Delaware deputy sheriff on that date?
Yes.
And at some point that day, did you begin working that evening?
Yes.
At approximately what time did you start your tour of duty?
I came on at 5 p.m.
When you came on at 5 p.m., did you learn any information about anything that happened earlier that day?
Yes. When I came on and I went to the office, I was briefed on the incident that had occurred at the Mullis farm.
And who briefed you on the incident?
Deputy Luke Thompson.
What, if anything, did you do?
As soon as we got done briefing about the incident, I had requested for Deputy Thompson to escort me out to the farm to review the scene.
Approximately what time did you go to the Mullis farm?
I was there before 6 p.m. I'm going to say it was probably about 5:30, 5:45 when I arrived.
What did you observe when you arrived?
So when we arrived, it was dark out. Obviously, family vehicles were there. Family was in the house, and Deputy Thompson had went to the house and then had met me out by the barn where they had found Amy in.
When you arrived, where did you go?
I went immediately to the red shed located on the property.
And did Deputy Thompson show you any specific area?
Yeah, so when we went to the location, because that's what I had asked Deputy Thompson, where was the body located, he had directed me to that location, and he had shown me he had described to me where they had located Amy, her positioning, where the corn rake was positioned, how it was laying, and everything that they had done up to that point.
What did you do then?
So I kind of took over for processing the crime scene and kind of analyzing the area. So I first started by basically just doing an overview of the building. I took note on if the door would open or close, how wide the doorway actually was. I actually entered, and then I took an immediate left, and you can tell that the walk space in between the sliding door in the front of the building and some chemical totes, was roughly 30 inches wide.
Was that the area that Amy Mullis's body was found in?
Yes. It was described to me that she was located in the middle of that door. So I took just a couple paces, and then there was a couple drops of blood on the floor, and that's where it was described to me that that's where she was positioned. It was described to me that she was positioned facing as if she was exiting the building. So as I enter, she would have been crouched facing me. And then it was explained to me how the rake was positioned in the corner leading back to this dog crate. So I entered the building, I was explained all that, and I viewed where the dog crate was. And then basically what I did is I looked on all the equipment in there, the totes, the wagon, augers on the floor itself. I was trying to look for any other indication of a fall, such as blood markings, any other markings on anything that would indicate an injury where she had fallen anywhere else but where she was located.
And did you observe anything?
I did not.
Did you actually see the pet carrier?
Yes.
And where was the pet carrier located in relation to where Amy's body was found?
So when you enter the building, you enter the open doorway and you take an immediate left. You're going to walk down that 30-inch aisle between the door and the chemical crates, probably about 15 to 20 paces. You're going to take a right and you're going to head to the rear of the shed. And that tote was straight ahead about, I'd say 30 paces, roughly.
What did you do then?
After I got done examining the inside of the shed,
Yes.
I went to the exterior of the shed, and on that night there was a light dusting of snow on the ground. So what I did is I checked the west side, the south side, and the north side of the shed just to make sure there was no indication of any other potential anybody would have came, footprints or anything like that.
And did you see any other footprints?
No, there was no indication.
What did you do then?
So then, I talked to Deputy Thompson outside. He described to me the incident more. I guess after that, I looked around in the gravel out front to see if I could see any blood or anything to indicate that outside. I did not see anything. And as I left, I viewed the hog barns, because most generally hog barns have camera system installed on them. So the way I knew there was two hog barns. There was one to the north, one to the south. But where my vehicle was positioned, basically I just did a loop in the driveway and I left. And as I did a loop, I viewed the north hog barn to see if I could see any cameras on the exterior of the building. I did not see that. The south barn, it was dark over there. The yard light did not light that building up very well, so I didn't get a good look at that building.
What did you do next?
So then, my next step in the investigation was I attended the autopsy down at the State Medical Examiner's Lab
And where was that located?
in Ankeny.
And did you bring anything to the autopsy?
Yes, I brought the clothing and the corn rake.
After that, what did you do with regards to the investigation?
So after that, obviously it was a homicide investigation. I corresponded with Special Agent John Turbot, and he and I had started basically discussing what we were going to do. I issued 19 search warrants, preservation letters, and I performed 30 to 34 interviews.
And when you say Special Agent John Turbot, who does John Turbot work for?
The Division of Criminal Investigations.
And why? How did John Turbot become involved in this investigation?
They're an assisting agency, so we had contacted them to assist with the homicide investigation.
And you indicated that you performed approximately 34 interviews?
30 to 34 right in there.
And at that same time that you were conducting your investigation, was Special Agent John Turbot also conducting interviews?
Yes.
Now, you also indicated that you executed 19 search warrants?
Yes.
What were those search warrants for?
So those search warrants were for electronics, cell phone records, Google records, Snapchat records, all sorts of communications. And that was on Todd Mullis's devices, and then Amy Mullis's phone, Tristan Mullis's, and we also executed a search warrant out at Todd Mullis's residence.
Did you actually collect all devices, electronic devices from the Mullis home?
Yes, we executed a search warrant at Todd Mullis's residence, and we collected all the electronic devices that he had in his possession, along with a camera system with a DVR unit at the home.
Was that on November 16th, 2018?
Yes.
On that date, were there also pictures taken of the Mullis farm?
Yes, so during that search warrant, we also took overview pictures of the farm, the layout, and the incident site again.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Deputy, I just handed you States Exhibit 70 to 103 and States Exhibit 111. Can you look through those briefly, please? First, let's talk about States Exhibit 111. What is that a photograph of?
This is an aerial view of Todd and Amy Mullis' farm.
And does that aerial photo truly and accurately depict the way the Mullis farm appeared on both November 10th, 2018 when you went there, as well as November 16th, 2018?
Yes.
And when you look at States Exhibit 70 through 103, what are those photographs of?
Those are the photographs we took the date of the search warrant.
And that would be November 16th, 2018?
Yes.
And do those photographs truly and accurately depict the Mullis farm on that date as you've previously described it?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask that States Exhibit 111 as well as 70 through 103 be admitted into evidence.
Any objection? No, Your Honor. Exhibits 70 through 103 and number 111 are all admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm asking permission to publish to the jury.
Yes.
Deputy, I'm first going to go through States Exhibit number 111. What is this the photograph of?
This is the aerial view of Todd and Amy Mullis' farm.
Your Honor, at this time, I'm going to ask that the witness come down so that he can refer to the screen.
Go ahead.
Deputy, can you describe the buildings that you see here?
So this is considered the North Hog Barn. This is the Hog Barn with the office in it, which the office is positioned right here at the top of the building. This is the South Hog Barn. There's no office in this building, just a loading chute. This is going to be your shop, okay? And this is going to be the residence. This is west, this is north, this is south, and this is east. This is the red shed. These are the grain bins. These are considered the fuel barrels. The road runs north and south, and the entrance into the residence is right here. It loops around, and it comes around, and you can exit down here as well.
And Deputy, just so we're clear, the red shed that Amy Mullis was found in, can you please indicate that for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
It could be the shed right here with the number 1 over the top of it.
And a moment ago, you pointed to something at the top left-hand corner and indicated that was the shop.
Yes, the building with the number 7 on it is the shop.
And that is also a red building, correct?
Red and white.
And you indicated a moment ago that when you went there, or I'm sorry, when you left the Mullis farm on November 10th, 2018, what building did you look at to see if there was a camera?
I looked at the North Hog building because as I exited the property, I drove through here and made a loop. So this building was not visible, but I looked at this building and it was to the north.
Thank you. You can go back to your seat. Deputy, I'm going to show you States Exhibit number 70. What is this a photograph of?
This is the north driveway of the property, just off the road.
And you can actually see the main road there.
Yes.
And is that the only main road that filters into the Mullis farm?
Yes.
States Exhibit number 71. What is this photograph of?
This is the residence of the home. This is from standing on the roadway. And that's also the north driveway, and the home is positioned right there.
Now, to the right of the house, there appears to be you could see a portion of a white building. What building is that on the farm?
That's the North Hog building that I had described on the property.
And on the left of the house, you can see what appears to be a white building with some type of red awning. What is that?
That's the shop that's positioned on the north side of the property.
That is not the shed that Amy was found in.
No.
States Exhibit number 72. What is this a photograph of?
This is a picture from the roadway, basically displaying the south driveway and the grain bins.
States Exhibit number 73. What's located in this photograph?
This is also standing on the road, displaying that the north driveway, the grain bins, the red shed Amy was found in, and the North Hog Building.
State's Exhibit number 74.
So this is standing in the north driveway by the residence, depicting the red shed that Amy was found in, and the grain bins and the fuel barrels positioned to the right and to the, just on the other side of the red shed.
State's Exhibit number 75.
So this is standing in the north driveway, and this is showing the red shed to your right by the tree, and the North Hog Building all the way to your left, and in the center, that's going to be your South Hog Barn.
And what hog barn were the information that you received were Todd and Tristan located in?
It's going to be the building on your left.
State's Exhibit number 76.
Same position. This picture displays the home to your left, the shop to your north with the big, the red and white building with the big shop door, and then the North Hog Barn just on the right-hand side of the photo.
State's Exhibit number 77.
This is a picture in the north driveway as well. This displays the red shed that Amy was found in, the fuel barrels to the left, and the grain bins just to the south of the red shed.
State's Exhibit number 78.
This is positioned back in the middle of the yard, just to the west of the North Hog Barn. This shows the aerial view of the red shed, the fuel barrels, and how the grain bins lay on the property.
And State's Exhibit number 79. What's located in that photograph?
This is a picture of the residence, so you're going to be positioned in between the North Hog Barn and the shop.
State's Exhibit number 80.
Same location, just a little bit further back to show how the red shed is positioned onto the property.
State's Exhibit number 81.
Same thing, picture of the red shed, the fuel barrels, the grain bins to the rear. You're actually in the middle of the yard.
State's Exhibit number 82.
This is going to be a picture standing right by the North Hog Barn facing the red shed. This is kind of by the office area, facing straight towards the red shed that Amy was found in.
And State's Exhibit number 83. What's located in this photograph?
So this photograph, where we're standing taking the photograph, this is actually in front of the South Hog Building, facing the entrance of the red shed, the red sliding door in the shed.
State's Exhibit number 84.
This is positioned just a little bit south of the South Hog Building, basically just showing another angle of the red shed Amy was found in.
State's Exhibit number 85.
This is on the south side of the South Hog Barn, showing how the yard lays on the property. You get the red and white building is the shop on the property. The chute closest to you is the South Hog Building, and then where you see the subject standing up on the top kind of right of the picture, that's the North Hog Building. The little grain feeders are in between the hog barns.
State's Exhibit number 86.
This is a picture in front of the South Hog Building, basically displaying the grain bins, the fuel barrels, and then the driveway that leads out to the road.
And what is that to the right? Is that
The red shed that Amy was found in.
State's Exhibit number 87.
This is a little bit closer view of the front entrance to the red shed. This is the only entrance to the red shed, and you can see how the door is positioned, open, 2.5 feet. That's about where it was.
Is that where how the door was positioned on November 10th, 2018?
Yes.
As well as November 16th, 2018, when these photographs were taken?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit number 88, is this a close-up of that same photograph?
Yes.
State's Exhibit number 89.
This is the south side of the red shed. We're facing north, and this is a photograph of the south side of the red shed that Amy was found in.
State's Exhibit number 90.
This is a picture of the front sliding door of the red shed that faces to the east. This is the entrance. This is how you enter the building.
And State's Exhibit number 91. What is in this photograph?
So this is the picture of the sliding door, about how it was open.
And is that how you entered?
Yes, right through that opening.
And State's Exhibit number 92.
So this is an angle. That's the opening to the red shed. And this is a photograph that displays immediate to your left as you would turn and walk left into the building.
State's Exhibit number 93.
Same angle, just a little bit better picture how you can see when you enter the red shed that Amy was found in, you can see the chemical totes to the right and the red door on your left. That's going to be your space that you had to walk down.
State's Exhibit number 94. What's located in this photograph?
So we took a tape measure and we measured the distance from the chemical totes to the door just to show the width of the walkway that Amy was found in. It measures around 30 inches.
State's Exhibit number 95.
Again, this is another measurement of the front sliding door to the chemical totes on the first path, the walkway that Amy was found.
And State's Exhibit number 96.
So from this position, you're in the building, you've came into the opening, you've taken a left, and now you're staring down the first walkway, okay? This is immediately to the bottom, right kind of where the door splits. That's the positioning the area Amy was found. And then when you get to the end, you're gonna see that circle object. That's where the corner turns to go to the back of the sheds. So that's your intersection.
And when if you go to the end of that area where you indicated the circle is and you turn right, what is located down there?
That's where the dog carrier or the carrier was located.
State's Exhibit number 97. What's located in this photograph?
Same angle, just a little higher, just to show the chemical totes and the sliding door.
State's Exhibit number 98.
So this is immediately when you get to the intersection, before you turn right.
State's Exhibit number 99.
So this is just another picture at the intersection where we took a picture just a little bit more to the right as you turn.
And State's Exhibit number 100.
This photograph displays as you can make the complete turn and you're facing straight to the west, looking down the shed where the dog carrier was. That's what that shows straight
Would
down.
it be fair to say that the person taking this picture would have kind of been at that intersection?
They're actually where the dog carrier is, I believe, in this photo, taking a photo towards that intersection, I think.
State's Exhibit number 101. Another photograph, I think, of the same area.
Yeah, same angle, yep.
And State's Exhibit number 102, what is this a photograph of?
Same angle. Same angle, you're at the... Actually, State's Exhibit 101. That's from the entrance looking straight back. This photograph is where you're at the dog carrier looking straight at the sliding door. That's this alley.
And in both 101 and 102, it's the passageway after you turned right where Amy's body was located.
Right,
It's just different angles.
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 103, what is this a photograph of?
This just shows the hay racks that were on the one side of the walkway.
And State's Exhibit 104?
Same angle, just showing the augers and then the other side of the walkway, not the side where the hay racks are. This is the other side, so both sides of the walkway.
Deputy, earlier I think we only talked about State's Exhibits going to 103. You indicated that 104 is also a picture of the red shed?
Yes.
And was that also a picture that was taken on November 16th, 2018, the day that the search warrants were executed at the Mullis farm?
Yes.
And is this a true and accurate depiction of that area located inside the red shed?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask that this State's Exhibit 104 be admitted into evidence.
Any objection? 104 is admitted.
Now, Deputy, you said you went on November 16th, 2018 to execute search warrants at the Mullis residence?
Yes.
What was the purpose, or what was the search warrant for on those day, on that day?
The search warrant were for all electronics at the residence.
Was it also to conduct a search of the home?
Yes, a search of the home and to gather more photographs.
And who was present when you went to go execute that search warrant?
It was myself, a few deputies from our office, and then Special Agent John Turbett.
Was the defendant or anybody from his family present as well?
Yes.
And who was present?
Todd Mullis, Todd Mullis' sister, and Todd Mullis' attorney, Bob Savers.
What, if anything, did you observe while you were conducting that search warrant?
So while conducting the search warrant, doing the search in the residence for electronics, we located several Kindles. We located an iPad that Todd said was his iPad. We located 2 laptop computers, and then we also seized a few cell phones. While doing a search in the residence, I also took note that it was evident that Todd Mullis is an avid hunter, and he likes to collect firearms and ammunition. Also with doing the search in the exterior buildings, there's obviously farm equipment. I've come to learn that Todd Mullis owned a Gleaner combine. I also located a camera system on the south hog barn. There's 2 cameras positioned in the peak of that hog barn. And the DVR recording system for them cameras were located in the office, in the shop. That'd be the red and white shed to the north. And I also noticed that, I also took note of those camera angles while I was there. One camera, we'll call them camera 1, camera 2. The one camera displayed the center of the yard, so it'd be from like where the house, the north hog barn, and the shop is, that angle. And the second camera was positioned towards the red shed. And that system was also seized on that day, the DVR recording unit for that system.
Now, Deputy, let's go back first. You indicated that all the devices were recovered from the residence.
Yes.
Can you just give a summary of what types of devices were recovered?
Kindles, Todd Mullis' cell phone, Amy Mullis' cell phone, an Apple iPad, and 2 laptops.
When you say an iPad, where did you specifically get that iPad from?
Todd said that he had it in his tractor, and so Mike Mullis had brought that to the farm for us, and that's when we.
Did you have a conversation with Todd Mullis about where his iPad was located?
Yes.
And that's when he indicated to you that it was in his tractor?
Yes.
Did you then ask him if there's some way that you could see that iPad?
Yes, he said he would have his brother Mike bring it up to the house.
Did Mike Mullis actually bring the iPad there then?
Yes.
And did he give it to Todd or give it to you?
He gave it to Todd, and Todd gave it to me.
And at that point, did you have a conversation with Todd?
Yes, I did, because when I received the iPad, it had a passcode on it. So you need to physically enter in a passcode. It was a 4-digit PIN number. So I had asked Todd if he would give me that passcode so I could get into the unit when I obtained a search warrant to search it.
Did Todd initially give you the passcode?
No, he was very hesitant to give me that passcode.
Did he then say anything to anyone else?
He turned to his attorney, and his attorney had advised him to give me the passcode.
Did Todd then give you the passcode?
Yes.
Did you then seize that iPad and collect it for evidence?
Yes, I did.
You indicated a moment ago that you were able to determine that there was 2 cameras at the Mullis farm.
Yes.
And I believe you called them camera 1 and camera 2.
Yes.
Did you also ask Todd about those devices?
I did.
And then where did you go to retrieve those devices?
We went to the shop, the red and white building, the shop to the north, and in the back right corner of the shop, there's an office. So Todd and I went into the office, and there was a a computer screen that displayed the video, and then there's also a DVR recording unit that is the box that records all of your video and stores it. And that's what I had seized.
And you seized the DVR systems for both of those cameras?
There's one DVR system. Both cameras are linked to that DVR.
And was that DVR system analyzed
Yes.
after another search warrant?
Yes.
And was there an analysis conducted on those on that DVR system?
Yes.
And go ahead.
I assisted with analyzing the DVR system from the video cameras. So what we had found is that we had camera 1, camera 2. I'm not sure which one was which, but I know that the video camera that was displaying at the angle towards the red shed, we were unable to find any video for that camera. We couldn't determine if the video was deleted or if the system just never recorded. The other camera system that displayed the yard, like the North Hog building, the shop, and over towards the house, the general yard, that one did have video, so it recorded from September 11th, 2018 to October 29th, 2018, and then there was no recordings from October 29th, 2018 until the day after the homicide, November 11th. So the video picks back up November 11th, the day after the homicide, and then records to November 15th, 2018, and then we seized the unit on the 16th the next day. So that window from the 10th to October 29th, there was no recording. So we weren't able to determine if it recorded or if the data was deleted.
Now, Deputy, throughout your investigation, were you able to determine the time or a time frame for Amy Mullis's death?
Yes.
And how were you able to determine that?
I issued a search warrant for Gmail, for Amy Mullis's Gmail, and her last conversation, November 10th, was with Jerry Frazier. The last message was at 10:14 in the morning.
And what time was the 911 call that came out?
12:01. So between 10:14 and 12:01, that was our time frame for the homicide.
Now, just briefly describe to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you indicated that you conducted or executed approximately 19 search warrants, and I apologize if you've already said this, but what were those other search warrants for as well?
So I issued a search warrant for Todd Mullis's Gmail. I issued a warrants to Google associated with Todd Mullis's Gmail account. I issued search warrants to Amy Mullis's Snapchat, Amy Mullis's email. I issued warrants for Amy Mullis's cell phone records through U.S. Cellular. I issued warrants for the phone itself, the data contained on the device for both Todd and Amy and Tristan's cell phone. I issued search warrants through U.S. Cellular for Todd and Tristan and Amy's, all the information that was stored at U.S. Cellular. I issued warrants for searching the computer and its content. I issued warrants for the Kindles to search the content that was contained on those machines, and then also search warrants for the DVR system.
Now, Deputy, we know that this crime occurred on November 10th, 2018. Do you recall when was the defendant arrested for this offense?
Approximately 3.5 months after the incident.
And throughout that 3.5-month investigation, did you have any other suspects or persons of interest?
Just Jerry Frazier.
And why was Jerry Frazier a person of interest?
Because we had identified Jerry Frazier as having an intimate relationship with Amy Mullis.
Were you able to rule out Jerry Frazier as a suspect?
Yes, we were.
And how were you able to do that?
So how we ruled out Jerry Frazier as a suspect, we did search warrants on Jerry Frazier's emails and phone records, and we were able to obtain tower and GPS information for his cell phone. So what we did is we took that information and we mapped it, and we mapped Jerry around Jerry lives in Anamosa, so we mapped Jerry in and around Anamosa the day of the homicide from about 10:40 in the morning to almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon to indicate that Jerry was in and around Anamosa during the time frame of the homicide.
And how far is Anamosa from the Mullis farm?
about 45-minute drive. We also conducted interviews with Jerry Frazier's wife and Jerry Frazier's son.
And was Jerry Frazier's wife ever a suspect or a person of interest?
No.
And why not?
Special Agent John Turba had interviewed her and had come to that conclusion.
Now, Deputy, you indicated that from the iPad that was seized that Todd gave you on November 16th, 2018, were you able to determine if there was a Gmail account linked to that iPad?
Yes, there was.
And what was that Gmail account?
Todd Mullis 76 at gmail.com.
After you seized that iPad, did you do an additional search warrant for it?
Yes, I did.
And what was that search warrant for?
So I did a search warrant to physically examine the iPad, to look into the iPad for the contents. And then I also did a search warrant to, so my findings of that, we'll start with that search warrant. My findings when I physically examined the iPad, iPads have Google. Google's a search engine. So if anybody has used Google before, they know they can pull up Google, and where you're going to type in your search, you can hit it and see your search history, right? So that search history only saves so many searches, and then they fall off. So I noticed on that search, when I hit that search bar to see the history that's on the device, I seen organs of the body was searched.
And when was that searched?
That was 4 days prior to the homicide.
And that was your observation when you conducted a physical search of that iPad?
Correct, yes.
Did you then execute a further search warrant to Google?
Yes.
And was that for the specific account of Todd Mullis 76 at gmail.com?
Yes.
And how do you go about executing that search warrant?
So with all the electronics that I seized at the residence, no other device had that Gmail associated with it. So Todd Mullis's Gmail was set up on the iPad, just like most Gmails are. That when you do a search warrant through Google, that Gmail is linked to that iPad. So Google has a service, and it's Gmail, if that makes sense. They're connected, so it tracks your search history. So I did a search warrant through Google associated with Todd Mullis's Gmail account, and that gave me the search history back for that iPad itself. So when I received the searches back, I had received searches back from 2017 to the present date.
And when you received those results, approximately how many pages did that entail?
Over 700.
And did you, as part of your investigation, go through those Google searches to see if there was any searches that you believed were relevant to this investigation?
Yes, I did.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Deputy, I just handed you State's Exhibit 112 as well as State's Group Exhibit 105. First, let's talk about State's Exhibit 112. What is that?
So this is a standard document we receive back. When I submit search warrants to Google, it's an online portal for law enforcement. When I receive the information back, they send an authentication letter with the records.
And is that what's known as a certificate of authenticity?
Yes.
And indicates that those are a true and accurate search of the account, the specific account of Todd Mullis 76 at gmail.com.
Yes.
And can you please look at State's Exhibit 105? And what is 105?
This is the search histories that we had obtained.
Is that all 700 pages?
No.
How many pages is that?
11.
And are those 11 of the pages that you received back from Google for the specific account for that search warrant that you just talked about?
Yes, it is.
And are those true and accurate copies of 11 of those 700 pages that you received from Google regarding this account?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, I would ask that both States Exhibit 112 and 105 be admitted into evidence.
Any objection? 105 and 112 are both admitted.
And, Your Honor, I would ask permission to publish to the jury.
Yes, granted.
Deputy, I'm going to show you, this is State's Exhibit 105. Because we're not showing all 700 pages, is this the beginning of those 700 pages and the end of those 700 pages?
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
And just so that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are clear on these Googles, or what's at the top of these searches? What is listed?
Oh, that's with a website that was searched.
And at the top, does it indicate that this is the Google account of Todd Mullis 76 at gmail.com?
Yes.
And just so that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are clear, can you describe let's just go to line 7, which is the first search that we see, just so that we can, if you can explain what appears on each line of these different searches.
It's going to be the date that it was searched, the time that it was searched, and then it's going to give the website that was either visited or specifically searched. And if it was specifically searched, it's going to show you the characters that were actually physically entered in for the search.
So would it be fair to say that at the beginning of each one, or almost all of them, it either says visited or searched?
Yes.
Now, throughout your investigation, as you indicated, you were able to analyze and go through all of these records, correct?
Yes.
I'm going to direct your attention, I believe it's to the last page in your group exhibit, going back to December 25th, 2017, where there are some specific searches that you believed were relevant to this investigation.
Yes.
And what was the first search that you believed was relevant? What date and time?
So the first search was December 25th, 2017. Now, the time on these is military time. So this search displays 3:04 in the morning. The search was search for was killing more accepted centuries ago. And then it'll show you at the bottom, this is specifically searched. So the keys that were entered is right at the bottom. Was plus killing more accepted centuries ago. That's how it was typed into the search.
Now, just so we're clear, Deputy, I see there's a pop-out of the line. Is that correct? On the screen in the PowerPoint presentation.
Yes, that's how we made the PowerPoint.
And is this line 2869 is what's popped out right now, showing the jury an exact replication of that full line?
Yes.
And is that so the same for this entire presentation?
Yes.
So just to be clear, when you look at the end of this search and it says was plus killing plus more plus accepted plus centuries plus ago, the actual words in between the pluses is what is actually searched?
Yes.
Now, was there another search on that same date on December 25th, 2017 that was searched?
Yes.
And what time was that at?
So this is also at 3:04 in the morning. The search was was killing more accepted centuries ago. And then you can see down at the bottom how it was typed into the search bar.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I'll just go to the next one. And if you go up, if we're starting later in time and going earlier in time, and this brings us to around the period of January 5th, 2018, is that correct?
Yes.
And on this page, what searches did you feel were relevant to this investigation?
So on January 5th, 2018, at 2:53 in the morning, there was a specific searched for characteristics of cheating women. So again, at the bottom, you can see what characters were typed in. Characteristics plus cheating women, a woman.
Now, and Deputy, you're familiar with Google?
Yes.
And it is a search engine, correct?
Yes.
And generally, when you go to the search engine, somebody can type in a search.
Yes.
And after you type in a search, what appears?
You'll have selections that'll appear, like different sites you can choose from that.
And I'll go to the next one here. On that same date, was there a site that was visited that you felt was relevant to this investigation?
Yes, so after that, There's another search, same date, January 5th, 2018, at 2:54 in the morning. This is a visited site. So the visited site was truthaboutdeception.com, cheating and infidelity, stats about infidelity, cheating-wife, and then you can see at the bottom, it's that's how it was typed in.
Well, and this is a visited site, correct?
Yes.
Just so that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are clear, the way that Google works is you put in, somebody has to type in an actual search.
Correct.
And then after that, different websites or different links pop up.
Yes, and you can visit those links.
So anytime these records say visited, that means that somebody would have clicked on those sites to look at them.
Correct.
And we'll go to the next one here, and this was at 3:05 a.m., is that correct?
Yes.
And what was this visited site?
Psychologytoday.com, blog, love and sex in the digital age, women who cheat relationships.
And after that, at approximately, or at the time of 3:11 and 53 seconds on that same date, was there another visited site?
Yes, so it was 6 traits almost every cheating woman has.
And I'll go to the next line here at 3:15 and 44 seconds on that same date. What was the visited site at that time?
So it's love, sex, signs, women cheating, cheat, intelligent, clever, educated.
And after that, at 3:17 and 6 seconds on that same date, what was the visited site?
16 facts about cheating women.
And at 3:17 and 35 on that same date, what was visited?
16 facts about cheating women.
At 3:18:40, what was what was searched?
Yeah, so on January 5th, 2018, at 3:18, it was searched for what did ancient cultures do to infidelity?
And after that, was there another search?
Yeah, search for did ancient cultures kill adulterers?
And that was at what time?
3:20 in the morning.
And at 3:20 and 19 seconds, what was visited?
So right after that, a site was visited, adultery.
And now I'm going to go now and jump a little bit to January 8th, 2018, where there's some additional searches that you believe were relevant to the investigation.
Yes.
And
So on this date, January 8th, 2018, at 2:08 in the morning, there was what was searched was search for thrill of the kill.
and that was actually typed in.
Correct, yes.
And after that, on that same date, at what time was there another search?
2:23 in the morning, searched for thrill of the hunt.
And what is this search of?
So this is going to be on January 8th as well, at 2:26 in the morning. Search for famous quote, no thrill like that of hunting man.
And is this another search on that same date?
Yep, same date, January 8th, 2018 at 2:31 in the morning. Search for, once you hunt man, you will always feel the thirst. And at the bottom, you can see how those characters were typed in.
And on that same date, was this another relevant search?
Yes.
And visited site, what was visited?
Yes, January 2018, 2:50 a.m., visited. Once you hunt man, you always feel the thirst.
Now, officer, this is, when we go back and look at like the page of the searches, there are some that are not highlighted. Would you agree with me?
Yes.
And can you just briefly talk about the ones before and after the searched ones?
Yes, so I highlighted the ones we're displaying. The search history before and after, I took note that on the same day, within that time frame of them searches, you're going to see a lot of searches related to guns, hunting, gleaner combines, ag talk, and other searches related to farming.
And even though we're not highlighting all of those searches, and we don't want to go over all of them because of timing, those are also listed in the same way as the ones we're highlighting.
Yes.
They indicate times and dates,
Times, dates.
and they also indicate visited or search sites.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to direct your attention up here to January 21st, 2018. What is this search, the date and time, and what is this search?
So January 21st, 2018 at 3:26 in the morning, search for how to make sure your kids are yours.
And you see what is actually typed in down there?
At the bottom, yes.
And what is this search?
January 21st, 2018 at 3:27 in the morning, search for tests to show if your biological father.
And again, the search after with the pluses indicates the actual words typed in.
Correct.
Was there a search at approximately 3:28 and 26 seconds?
Yes.
And what is this search of?
DNAtesting.com, what do my results mean?
I'm sorry, I misspoke. This is a visited site, correct?
Yes, this is a visited site.
And line 2598, what was this search for?
January 21st, 2018, 3:33 in the morning, search for how to test DNA at home.
And at 3:35 and 24 seconds, what was searched?
Search for how to do a DNA test without the father knowing.
And at 3:38 and 4 seconds on that same day, what was visited?
DNAtesting.com, discreetly doing a DNA test without consent possible.
And again, there's other searches above and beyond the highlighted ones, correct?
Yes.
And in this slide, if you look at the search directly below the highlighted ones at 3:16:54 on that same day, what is searched for?
Hunting bows?
It actually indicates search for Oneida Bows Phoenix, correct?
Yes.
Oneida, Oneida.
Yes.
And above the highlighted searches, at 4 a.m. and 10 seconds on that same day, what is searched?
Search for longest distance of how bow and arrow.
I'm going to go to the next slide here. And on May 10th, 2018, was there a search at 1:15 a.m. and 1 second?
Yes.
And what was searched on that date?
So that was search for what happens to cheaters in history.
And you see there what was actually typed in.
Yes, at the bottom you can see the characters that were typed in.
And at 1:15 and 34 on that same date of May 10th, 2018, was a site visited.
Yes.
And what site was that?
The making of a cheater.
At 1:39 and 22 seconds on May 10th, 2018, was there a visited site?
Yes.
And what site was that?
So it was once a cheater, always a cheater, marriage therapist weigh in.
And that was a Huffington Post.
Yes.
On that same date of May 10th, 2018, at 1:43 and 20, was there a search?
Yes.
And what was the search?
Search for what happened to cheating spouses in historic Aztec tribe.
At 1:43 and 32 seconds on that same date, was there a visited site after that?
Yes.
And what site was that?
Real History, www.com. World History, Ancient, American Aztec History.
And at 1:57:20 on that same date, was there another visited site?
Yes.
And what was that?
www.aztechhistory.com.
At 1:59 and 57 seconds on that same date, was there an additional search?
Yes, so this was specifically search for killing unfaithful women. You can see at the bottom the specific characteristics that were typed into the search.
And at 2 a.m. and 49 seconds, was there a visited site after that?
Yes.
And what was that visited site?
So this was www.nytimes.com. Punishment is 18 months for killing cheating wife.
And at 2:02 and 24 seconds on that same date, was there a visited site after that?
Yes.
And what was that?
This one is www.baltimoreesun.com, news, PH-Ag murder trial opening.
At 2:05 and 43 seconds, was there an additional visited site on that same date?
Yes.
And what was the site visited?
Crimes of passion.
And at 2:13:36, was there a search conducted on that date?
Yes.
And what was the search for?
Search for human overpopulation solutions.
Now, I'm going to direct your attention to the date of July 13th, 2018. On that date, at 10:56:14, was there a search?
Yes.
And what is that search?
Search for, are some people less buoyant than others?
And just seconds later, was there a site visited?
Yes.
And what site was that?
That's www.scientificamerica.com. Article, muscle versus fat.
And about two and a half minutes later, is there an additional site visited?
Yes.
And what site visited is that?
So www.theregister.co.uk, the Odd Body Swimming.
And about 3 minutes after that, was there another visited site?
Yes.
And what is that visited site?
www.relaxandswim.com, buoyancy, physics and buoyancy.
And on that same date, July 13th, 2018, at 11:06:10, was there another visited site after that?
Yes, www.swim-teach.com, why does my body sink?
Now, if you go, and now we go to the highlighted searches on July 21st, 2018. And was there a search on that date at 1:43 a.m. and 39 seconds?
Yes.
And what was that search for?
Search for checking content of text messages on phone.
At 1:44 a.m. on that same date, was there a visited site?
Yes.
And what was that visited site?
Dr. Phone, Wondershare.com, message, get text message records from iOS.
At 1:47:10 on that same date, was there a visited site?
Yes.
And what was the visited site?
Forums, .att.com, data messaging features, internet, can my husband read my deleted text messages online?
On that same date at 1:48:42, was there a visited site after that?
Yes.
And what was that?
www.livestrong.com, one parent transcript, kids text messages.
At 1:53:07 on that date, was there a visited site?
Yes.
And what was that site?
www.vorce.com, eager to check those texts.
And on that same date at 1:55:26, was there a visited website?
Yes.
And what was that website?
Securetracks.com.
And do you know what securetracks.com is? If you do.
No.
Now, I'd like to direct your attention to the searches on July 26, 2018. At 14:43:50, which, can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what that military time is in actual time?
So it's 2:43 in the afternoon?
Was there a search on that date?
Yes.
And what was what was searched?
Search for Jerry Frazier, Hemesath?
And after that, was there a visited site?
Yes.
And what was that visited site?
Jerry Frazier, Hemesath, Iowa?
On that same date at 1444, which would be 244, was there another search?
Yes.
And what was that search for?
Search for 22703 Fish House Road, Hemesath, Iowa, zip code 52205, which is Jerry Frazier's address.
Was there then a search on that same date at 2:48 p.m.?
Yes.
And what was the search, what was typed in?
Search for Christy Frazier.
And was there a visited site after that at 2:48:31?
Yes.
And what was the visited site?
www.mylife.com, Christy Frazier.
On that same date at 2:49 and 42 seconds, was there a visited site?
Yes.
And what was that visited site?
Twitter.com, Frazier Christy.
On that date, was there an additional visited site at 2:50?
Yes.
And what was that site?
It's a visited site, facebook.com, Christy Starsberg Frazier.
And on July 26, 2018, at 16:40, which would be 4:40, correct?
Yes.
Was there a search completed?
Yes.
And what was the search for?
Search for Christy Frazier employment.
And at 4:40 and 51 seconds, was there an additional search?
Yes.
And what was that?
Search for Christy Frazier, Hemesath, Iowa workplace.
At 4:41 and 2 seconds, was there a visited site after that?
Yes.
And what was that?
www.journaleureka.com, obituary articles.
At 4:42 and 33 seconds, was there something visited on that same date?
Yes.
And what was that?
This is www.manta.com, Rogers Concrete. That's where Christy Frazier works.
At 4:47 and 22 seconds on that same date, was there an additional visited site?
Yes.
And what was that for?
www.manta.com, Rogers Concrete.
Now, on August 9th, 2018, was there a search at at 5:38 and 25 seconds?
Yes.
And what was searched?
Search for what fraction of firearm incidents occur in the home?
And you see at the bottom there what was actually physically typed in.
Yes.
And when you look at the first highlighted search at the bottom, can you see what's below it
Yes.
and above it as well?
Yes, the search below it was searched dreamdirt.com, farmland prices in Iowa.
And that was the day before, correct?
Yes.
And then when you look at the one above it, that's the same day as the search we just talked about.
Yes.
And that was a few minutes after the search for what fraction of firearm incidents occur in the home.
Yes.
And what was that search at a few minutes later?
Search for example of elbow carry of firearm.
And on that same date, a few minutes later, at 5:46:30, was there a search completed?
Yes.
And what was the search for?
Search for degree, a zone of fire spans out in front of hunters.
Now, on August 9th, 2018, at 7:40 and 36 seconds, was there a search?
Yes.
And what was the search for?
Search for how long you can survive without food.
And after that, at 7:41, was there a visited site?
Yes.
And what was that site?
How many days can you survive without water?
Was there a visited site at 7:41 on that same date?
Yes.
And what was that for?
How many days you cannot survive without water?
At 7:42 and 24 seconds on August 9, 2018, was there a search completed?
Yes.
And what was that search for?
Search for how long you can survive without water.
And you can actually see what was actually typed there in the bottom?
Yes.
In between those pluses?
Yep. Yes.
On August 9th, 2018, was there a search at 7:44 and 48 seconds?
Yes.
What was actually searched?
Search for what lost in extreme cold, no fire, which is best way to survive.
At 7:45 and 40 seconds on August 9th, 2018, was there a search?
Yes.
And what was the search?
Search for heat stroke symptoms.
Was there a visited site on that same date at 7:46 p.m.?
Yes.
And what was that visited site?
Heat stroke symptoms and treatment.
On that same date at 7:46 and 8 seconds, what was the visited site?
Heat stroke symptoms and treatment.
At 7:46, was there an additional visited site?
Yes.
And what was that site?
Heat exhaustion.
At 7:47:34 on that same date, August 9th, 2018, was there a search?
Yes.
And what was the search for?
Search for proper way to treat heat stroke.
Was there a visited site after that on the same date at 7:47 and 39 seconds?
Yes.
And what was that?
www.huntered.com, Indiana, study guide, heat exhaustion and heat stroke.
Was there a search completed at 7:49 and 2 seconds on that same date?
Yes.
And what was the search?
Search for what is the best way to stop severe bleeding, hunter safety.
On that same date at 7:49 and 23 seconds, what was the visited site?
Hunter's Ed Week 2 flashcards.
On that same date at 7:50 and 17 seconds, what was searched?
Search for correct treatment for second and third degree burns.
Was there a visited site after that at 7:50 and 45 seconds?
Yes.
What was the visited site?
Burns, first aid burns.
Was there a search completed on that same date at 7:53 and 27 seconds?
Yes.
What was searched?
Search for what to do with large open chest wound.
On that same date at 7:54:12, was there a visited site?
Yes.
What was the visited site?
www.gems.com, articles, print, volume 38, issues-8, patient care, treating sucking chest wounds and other.
And was there a search completed on that same date at 7:55 and 54 seconds?
Yes.
And what was that search for?
Search for skin, cold, clammy, pale, pulse rapid, shallow breathing.
And again, those were the words that were actually typed in.
Yes.
On November 6, 2018, were there some searches that were just 4 days prior to Amy's murder?
Yes.
On November 6, 2018, was there a search completed at 1:45:57?
Yes.
And what was actually typed in and searched?
So that's 1:45 in the morning. Search for organs in the body.
Now, a moment ago, you talked about physically looking in this iPad, correct?
Yes.
And you indicated that when you went to Google and you pressed the search area of Google, drop-down menu came up?
Yes.
And you saw some of the prior history on that iPad.
Yes.
And is this the search that you indicated to the ladies and gentlemen of the jury that you saw organs of the body?
Yes.
And it was from that same date?
Yes.
After that search, was there a visited site at 1:47 a.m. on November 6, 2018?
Yes.
And what was that visited site?
Organ anatomy.
Was there a visited site after that at 1:48 a.m. on that same date?
Yes.
And what was that visited site?
Body organs, maps, and diagrams.
Deputy, is the Mullis farm located in Delaware County?
Yes.
Now, at some point, you are aware, and you, I believe, saw the rake that was recovered in this incident.
Yes.
Did you ever perform any type of DNA on that rake?
No.
Why not?
I actually inquired the DCI lab, that's the main lab that we use to test evidence. I inquired about touch DNA evidence. They had advised me that touch DNA evidence they no longer do because of its inconsistencies. And also about latent fingerprints. A type of instrument like that with the texture, obtaining latent fingerprints off of a device like that is not possible.
Additionally, did throughout your 3.5-month investigation, was Todd Mullis your main suspect?
Yes.
And did you have information that Todd had touched the rake?
Yes, he told us that.
I have nothing further, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
Your Honor. I think I can begin and do some preliminary things, but I think considering time, I'd like to take a break because there's a lot of this stuff we'd like to focus on so I can be more effective in the cross-examination.
Yeah, that's fine. We can take our morning break at this point in time. Folks, we'll try to keep this to 10 or 15 minutes. Remember the admonition, report back to the jury room.
All right, for the jury.
Please be seated. Mr. Firehelm, whenever you're ready, go right ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Deputy, during your direct testimony, you indicated a couple different times, I think, that you said where the body was. This is where you were told the body was, right?
Yes.
And that was provided ultimately, or the source of that information would have come from probably Tristan, right?
Yes, Tristan told Deputy Luke Thompson, and then Deputy Luke Thompson told me.
All right. And your examination of the shed, we'll keep calling it that, consisted of a walk-around, and then you went through and looked for places where someone might have fell and struck their head or left some blood or something like that. Is that how I understood you to say?
Yes.
And you didn't find anything like that?
I just found 2 drops of blood, and that was in the placement where Amy was said to be located.
If I could ask the state to please pull up Exhibit 111, the aerial. May I go up there, Your Honor?
Yes, go right ahead.
I want to ask you about those cameras. There was a camera on this barn.
No.
Which one?
South Barn,
This one?
just to north of the loading chute.
In this area?
Yes.
And where was the other camera?
They were both on where your finger was.
Here.
Yep.
Just
Yes.
angled at different angles.
Yes.
And the recording equipment was over either in this area or in the main shop?
Yes.
Okay. And only one of the, well, let me check my notes. You said one of the cameras was pointed in the direction of the shed.
Yes, one of the cameras was pointed right at the red shed where Amy was found, the shed with a 1 on it.
Okay. And the other one was pointed where?
The other one was pointed, there's a semi in the yard, you can see that right there. The coverage, the video covered those 3 grain bins right in between where number 12 is on the picture, and it covered a view of the yard. You could see the shop. I actually viewed a feed truck filling them grain bins. So those grain bins are actually to the south of where that office is in the North Hog building. So if anybody, anybody that would come out.
And the camera that would show towards the shed, there was nothing on there.
No, we weren't able to obtain any video from that camera.
And the other direction, September 11th through October 29.
Yes.
And then there was some after November 10th.
The video resumed recording on November 11th, the day after the homicide, to November 15th. And then we seized the unit on the 16th.
But that's the one that wouldn't show the shed.
It would show the travel path to and from the red shed.
Okay. Sir, I'm going to apologize in advance if I butcher some of these terms, because I'm not so educated about all this technology. The Exhibit 105, that was the long list of searches and visits that you just got done testifying about. Where did those searches, what device did those searches come from?
iPad.
All of them?
All of them, yes.
How do you know that?
Because I sent a search warrant to Google, and the indicator on that search warrant was his Todd Mullis 76 at gmail.com. That is the indicator for that device, the account on that device. So when you receive the results back, you can see in the list of searches, that's consistent with the search history because the device physically had organs of the body on it. The records that I received, organs of the body, is in the material. That's the only email account associated with that iPad. That's how I know that those searches are from that iPad. Because you have to enter an indicator, if you would say that, of that Google account. That makes sense.
Did you also conduct what's known as a Celebrite exam of the iPad?
Yes.
And tell the jury, please, what a Celebrite exam is.
So a Celebrite exam is I take the physical unit and I hook it to a machine and it extracts all of the physical data that's on the machine to like an external device so I can view it. And it doesn't disrupt any of the stuff that is still stored on the machine, like contacts, phone calls, text messages, things of that nature.
Even deleted material?
Not always.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Have you made a comparison between the Celebrite, and I think the term that a lot of people use is a Celebrite dump, where it sucks all that information out of a device? Have you made a comparison between the Celebrite dump on Todd's iPad and 105 to see if they're the same?
I don't know if I physically did that or not.
And if there's all these searches are not on that Celebrite dump, what would that tell us?
These are the Google searches from the iPad. The ones I obtained from Google with the authentication letter, these are the searches from the iPad.
Isn't it possible for someone to log in to someone's Todd Mullis 76 at gmail.com from another device?
Yes, you can log into an email, any device, sure, yes.
For instance, if my assistant down here, we each have a laptop in our office, and she came in and logged in, it would look like I was making a search, right?
I don't know if that would track your Google history. I think your Google history is machine specific.
But if you log in to,
You can log into your email on any device.
right.
That's just your email. Yeah, that Google offers a service, which is email. You can have email, but as far as logging into somebody else's device and then showing that search history on that device, I don't believe that's possible.
Well, if I understand your testimony or what you're telling the jury here today is that all these searches were made by Todd Mullis off that iPad.
Yes.
And all of these, you believe, either relate to combines and farming, or to these suspicious searches about ancient history of cheating people and stuff like that.
Yes.
Okay? Moment, Your Honor. I'm going to go through 105 and pick out a few searches or visits, and I would ask the state to please pull up. I'm looking at July 19th, 2018, and the time shown is 2:49 and 18. Your Honor, may I approach while they're looking for that?
Yes, go ahead.
You have your list there, Deputy?
Yes.
On the page at the bottom, July 18th at 2:07. You see that one?
Yes.
Okay, go up from there about 11 lines. What's that search?
Is this July 19th, 2018 at 2:46 a.m.?
Yes.
Search for wedding rings for women.
What's the next one up?
www.rothjewelers.com.
Next one up.
Search for design a wedding ring.
At 2:51:34. Couple more up.
Search for design a wedding ring.
The next four on the above that.
Design.kdiamonds.com.
And there's other jewelry ones in between?
Yes.
If you go up to the top 4, just tell us what those 4 are on that page.
They look like bridal searches. www.chicboutiqueny.com.
So, if I understand you correctly, all these searches are being done from Todd Mullis's iPad,
Yes.
and he's searching for wedding dresses and wedding rings.
There are searches that are in relation to his employment, to his hobbies, to his interests, and to items that he physically owns. Yes.
I didn't ask you that. You're telling the jury that Mr. Mullis is looking for wedding rings and designing diamonds and going to wedding boutiques.
We could be shopping for something of that such.
Or somebody else could be doing these searches, right?
It's possible, but not probable.
Off a different device. Amy Mullis.
Off of a different device? No. These searchers are from the iPad.
So if we take a time out here and have you compare the Celebrite dump, we're going to find every one of these searches on that Celebrite dump.
As I explained before in my testimony, when you click on the Google browser, it's going to give you a short list of search items. So 10, 12, 15. And they drop off after a while because the system does not store all those. I performed a search warrant through Google associated with Todd Mullis's email. I got a return back for all the Google searches that were performed on that machine. Now on that iPad, when you get into the Google search bar and you click on it, and you can see your last 10 to 15 Google searches, I seen organs of the body. When I received my warrant back from Google, you can see on the 700 pages that I received back, organs of the body is in my list in my packet I received from Google. I also received a letter of authentication from Google with them records to indicate those are the searches from the iPad.
How many pages was the Celebrite dump?
That went on a flash drive, so I didn't print that out, but it's on an external storage device.
But I don't think you answered my question. If we compare the Celebrite dump, which we have right here, with Exhibit 105, they should be the same.
It depends on if the Cellbrite dump, you would say, pulled the internet history. Sometimes Cellbrite dumps don't pull internet history. Like I had stated before, when you manually download a phone or a device using Cellbrite,
Sir,
it pulls contacts, text messages, phone calls.
Excuse me.
Objection, Judge. He needs to allow him to finish the answer.
Well, he didn't exactly answer it. I'm going to let counsel ask another question. You'll get a chance to redirect. Go ahead.
Let me check for a few more here, just a second. On July 15th, 2018, this would be at the very top of the, well, not, it's one line down from the top of the page. Find that?
Yes.
What's that a search for?
Search for Zales.com.
Zales is a diamond place, isn't it?
Yes.
Next one down.
That was a search for www.pinterest.com.
What's Pinterest?
I'd have to ask my wife. I don't use Pinterest, I guess.
Okay. But you're saying Mr. Mullis did off his iPad?
The records show that the iPad searched that. Yes.
Then you talked about some there, below there, about swimming and floating and so forth. Below that, July 9th, 1750-54. What's that one?
This was a search for Lady Antebellum We owned the night?
Singing group, right?
Country, yes.
Okay. Further down, there's Carrie Underwood.
Yes. Also a country artist.
Do you see any in here for the American Inn in Newton, Iowa? Did you ever see-
Yes.
Did you coincide that with any of the investigation as to Amy Mullis's travels during the summer of 2018?
I'd have to look back to compare dates.
Do you know if Mr. Mullis ever went to the American Inn in Newton, Iowa?
I do not know that.
And we can, well, one of these that you testified about going back to January 21st of 18 at 3:35.
What was the date again?
January 21 at 3:35:24. What's that one?
This is a search for how to do a DNA test without the father knowing?
Dangerous question, I suppose. But why would Todd Mullis do a search like that
I don't know.
unless someone else did?
Objection. Is that a question?
Is it possible someone else did?
It's possible, but it's not probable.
I want to talk to you about some of the times that you've given. What's UTC mean on this printout?
Central Standard Time?
If the internet tells you you're wrong, would you disagree?
Can you ask that again? I guess I've never had the internet tell me I'm wrong.
Have you ever researched that UTC is the successor to Greenwich Meridian Time, GMT?
Okay. I've never searched that, no.
And that to obtain the time in the different time zones that in the central United States, during daylight savings time, you would subtract 5 hours to get the correct time.
Okay.
So these times you're saying 2:30 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. If you subtract 5 hours, it's being done in the evening.
Objection. Is there a question pending, Judge?
Mr. Firehelm, go ahead, ask a question.
Do you understand this UTC concept?
No.
So if you don't understand it, then could your times be off?
I went by the times displayed on the search history.
The UTC time, as it's shown on there.
Yes.
Okay. Let me ask you, you went through and talked about searches or visits that seem to talk about cheating and infidelity and ancient history dealing with issues like that and so forth. And I think you worked up, and then it switched off to some searches about Jerry Frazier. Does that kind of track with the flow of your questions and answers?
Yes.
And that Fraser searches, I believe, were happening in mid to late July.
I'd have to check the date, but yes, the searches were completed.
Okay. In your review of 105 and the whole body of searches, were there similar types of searches about infidelity and cheating and so forth that were occurring, let's say, after the end of July?
I believe there's some in August. I'd have to read through all these again, but I know within what we have, there are searches related to that.
And then the one you found particularly interesting was on November 6th, I think, the one about body organs.
Yes.
And was there anything unique about that day as it relates to this case in terms of Amy Mullis, Todd Mullis, and
It's 4 days before the homicide.
did you also learn it was also a day that she had a medical procedure done?
It could have been.
Okay. So if someone's going to have a medical procedure done, they might search a medical website or whatever you want to call it. Possible?
Yeah, it's possible. Yeah.
Okay. You went through a grouping that seemed to deal with hunter safety. Remember that?
Yes.
I guess, do you believe that for Todd Mullis being what appears to be a very active hunter, fisherman, that kind of thing, would those be unusual?
As it relates to being a hunter,
Right.
I just know there's searches of hunter education within the searches. I mean, that's not unusual for a hunter, I guess.
I'm just asking, the ones that you talked about, whether or not those were suspicious searches or why they're being emphasized.
We just created a cluster of the searches that we felt should be displayed that are relevant and with the whole picture of things.
Do you know if any of the Mullis children were involved in any hunter safety courses or anything like that?
I don't.
All right, I think that's all I have for now, sir. Thanks.
Redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Deputy, just so that we're clear for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you physically looked at this iPad, correct?
Yes.
And based on your understanding of what Cellbrite is or what you indicated, it is whatever is on the device at that time.
Yes. Basically, what you're doing is your cell phone or your iPad, you're transferring whatever is on that machine physically onto an external device so you can view it.
Is that sometimes commonly known as a dump, a cell phone or iPad
Yes.
dump?
Yes.
And as the defense attorney asked you, sometimes deleted material is on there,
Sometimes there is,
and sometimes there isn't.
and sometimes there isn't.
And
And sometimes you have internet history transfer over, and sometimes you don't.
the internet history that you received connected to this Gmail account spanned approximately, was it almost 18 months or around that amount of time?
The results I got back from Google?
Yes.
Yes, from 2017 to the present.
And you
date.
actually executed a search warrant for the specific account of toddmullis76@gmail.com.
Yes,
And for searches related to that Gmail account and that Google account also, correct?
yes,
And Todd Mullis has a flip phone, correct?
correct. And
And-
that does not have internet.
You learned that Amy Mullis had a phone
Yes,
and that she had a specific Gmail account.
she did,
And that
yes.
was mullisrn@gmail.com.
Yes,
And you also executed a search warrant for that Gmail account and those searches as well.
yes,
And you were able in your investigation, analyze the data that you received.
yes,
Now, counsel asked you a lot about searches about bridal, I think it was a bridal place, and wedding rings. You recall those?
Yes.
And there are some searches on the records that you talked about that do have some of those things, correct?
Yes.
None of those are directly before or directly after the cluster of searches that we highlighted to the jury.
No.
And he also asked you about UTC time, correct?
Yes.
The thing that was most significant about the searches was the item searched, correct?
Yeah, it's content.
And then also what was searched in succession.
Yes. Before and after, yes.
Now, Amy Mullis, in your investigation, was an RN nurse, correct?
Correct, yes.
And you learned that she had a simple procedure on November 6, 2018.
Yes.
And that was nothing to do with her organs.
Correct, yes.
Nothing further.
Any recross?
If Amy had the password to the iPad, could she then go in and do searches on the Mullis account?
Yeah, if you have a password to an iPad, you can go in and do searches on the machine, sure.
And that would show up on 105 then?
Yeah, whatever searches are done on that machine, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
And did you determine whether or not Amy had that password to the iPad?
I don't know if she had it or not.
Okay. But what you just said, I think I understood you, is if she had it, she could get on the iPad and do searches.
Objection asked and answered.
I'll allow it. Go ahead.
Yes, if you have a password to a device, yeah, you can. Yes, you can get on it and do a search.
Kind of like my example of Christy getting on my laptop at work.
Objection, cumulative, Judge, and he's already answered the question.
I'm going to allow it. Go ahead.
Please re-ask the question.
If Christy got on my laptop at the office, she could do searches and it would come up on my search history,
Yes, if she got on your laptop, she could search the internet on your laptop.
knowing my password to get in.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, sir. You can step down.